When I first saw my son, and when they gave him and I was holding him in my arms, I looked into his eyes and he looked into my eyes, and this this sensation of joy and just this really good, almost prideful, it's like, this is my son. Wow. And I remember thinking at that moment that that's what God must have felt like when he created me. We finally got to bring him home. So we brought him home for 1 week. And that 1 week was just awesome. I took photos with him. He was smiling. He was just such a happy, joyful baby. So we went up to him and he just wasn't being himself. And so we took him to the ER. And they checked him, they did what they needed to do, and they couldn't figure out what was going on at the moment. Slowly, things just got a little bit more complicated, as the time went on. They narrowed it down to this disease called neonatal hemochromatosis. It's an autoimmune disorder that my wife carries, and it attacks the liver specifically. There was a moment where we started to kind of panic, but our prayers were extensive, and they were just raw, and they were just the most sincere prayers I've ever prayed ever before. Um, but through that, I learned what it was to not be selfish in my prayers. That's something that I had never learned in my faith. I had never seen that side of my faith before. So we get the call from the doctor. They say, your son has this disease and he's going to need a liver transplant. And that was hard to swallow. But again, God was so merciful, and he was giving us so much strength that I myself realized that this strength was from the Lord at that time. When my wife was smiling, I was smiling, and I didn't even know why. And within 3 days, everything just went downhill. It was tough because that was the first time I had ever seen anyone die. I had never been around death ever. And for it to be my own son, that it took a while for me to process that. So it came to a point where recently, this is actually recently, where God just really started to heal my heart and show me a different aspect of his grace. But what I do know is that there is a joy that comes that I have no idea where it comes from. And it's a daily process. It involves allowing God to fill you with his love and his grace every day. But our prayers now are just, God, we know that anything that comes our way, anything that is good, is going to come from you. And so our trust is completely in you. And that brings a lot of peace for us.